After much contemplation, I've decided that I really needed to make this video, and I really needed to put all my feelings into video form. Note that I do not promote any form of self-harm in any way, nor do I glamorize it. For the past couple weeks, I've been really struggling with my self-harm, and I haven't really made a video about the things to remember about self-harmers and the things that you really need to deal with when confronting them. I went to a family gathering over the weekend for my cousin's graduation, and many family members, in fact most of them, even some that I haven't met, noticed my scars and then instead of talking to me about it, went to my mother. Now there were a couple things that offended me about this, and there were some things that I was also glad about that they did that. The fact that they didn't yell at me was really nice. It happened to me before. But I wanted to make a video about things to remember when confronting self-harmers, and things to remember when you're around them. Not every self-harmer is the same. Definitely not every self-harmer has the same kind of expectations of people around them. Personally, I am definitely shove it under the rug. I cover up most of the time, but sometimes I don't want to, and sometimes I really don't feel like hiding, so I don't. But the best thing for you to do if I don't cover up my scars one day is to not say a word. If you see them and you notice them and you stare, fine. But don't talk to me about it. I would rather somebody continue being my friend talking to me like everything was okay, because that actually kind of makes me feel better, that people don't care. There are also self-harmers that I have also known personally that will post the pictures on the internet. Often, if a self-harmer posts pictures on the internet, that is a cry for help and you need to talk to them. Don't go straight to a professional, try to talk to them first. And if they won't listen to you because maybe they're angry or they have built up so many walls, which is something that I know personally I've done. Sometimes they build up walls and they don't want to talk to anybody and they don't want to open up, and that's fine. Then definitely go to a counselor. Don't go to a teacher. Don't go to their parents, because you never know how a teacher's going to react. It isn't necessarily a teacher's specialty to deal with a child who's suicidal or self-harms. So the best thing to do is go to a counselor. That is your best bet, is go to a counselor, and don't exploit them immediately. Ask them first if they have any advice about a self-harming friend. Then, if they give you advice, and then if they ask who it is or what's going on, you can reveal to them if you want, if you really feel like they need that kind of help. I have a friend who's self-harming, and I'd really like it if you help me get them help. For the past couple of weeks, I've had several family members, mostly my mom and my grandpa, call me to talk about my self-harm. That was the worst decision. I cried for about 2 hours before making this video and deciding that I don't want to talk about it. I'm not trying to say that I ignore the fact that I self-harm or ignore the fact that I do have scars on my arms from previous experiences with it. I'm trying to move past the fact that I'm a freak. Whenever somebody calls me out on it, I always feel like I'm being judged. And there are lots of self-harmers who just don't want to talk about it. Family members might just be concerned, but sometimes it's more than that, and sometimes it can kind of really hurt that a family member speaks to you in that way. My mom has a problem of jokingly saying that I cut myself, and I laugh it off, and I do it every time, and she's called me emo, and she's made fun of my self-harm, and I love my mom to death, but that really hurts me. Today we were in the car and she was smoking, and I told her, you shouldn't do that, it's gonna kill you. And she said, well, you cut yourself. So that hurt a lot. So that's something that you should definitely avoid. Don't bring it up like it's a joke, ever. Because I guarantee you, 75 to 99% of self-harmers are gonna be really offended if you bring it up in a joking manner during conversation. The last thing that I'd like to tell you is that if you self-harm, nobody cares. And I'm not saying that like because so many people love you and care about you. But do you think if you go out in public and a stranger sees your scars, they're going to judge you immediately? People are going to stare and they're going to be curious, and that happens. But in the end, they don't know you and they don't know what it is. And that's where you can be free. You can go out in public and nobody cares. Nobody gives a shit if you have the messiest hair. You can go into a store and there are going to be 20 other people looking the exact same way. And when you think about it, sitting in a classroom, remember the fact that 1 out of 10 students cuts themselves. 1 out of 10 students suffers from self-harm. Sitting in a classroom, holding your sleeves down, remember that there are so many other kids in that room that are doing the same thing. Snugly holding their sleeves over their wrists, itching their thighs, rubbing at their shoulder like it's irritated, like there's bugs in their skin. Remember that you aren't alone, and remember that when confronting a self-harmer, that you need to remind them of that every chance you get. Thank you for watching this video, and I hope you actually got something from it, because this has been on my mind a lot, and I really needed to express how important it is that you don't confront a self-harmer in the wrong way. If you got something from it, or if you enjoyed it, or even if you want to give your own input, leave a video response under the bed, and I will see you next time.